Today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very delightful treat. She's an organizational expert, badass entrepreneur, author, and co-executive director of OneKid, OneWorld, a nonprofit building strong educational foundations for children in impoverished communities throughout Kenya and Central America. No big deal. She grew up with family members who hoarded, and she knows firsthand that the effects of living amongst an accumulation of possessions goes far beyond the home's walls. Big facts. This personal experience gives her contrast since she has a unique understanding of the mindset of the organizationally challenged. She was working for a major television director in LA when she discovered she had the ability to see through any mess and clearly envision a clutter-free space and bring that to fruition for the world. That, in combination with her keen time management, allowed her to reinvent herself as an entrepreneur and organizational master, and dClutterfly was born. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific human being. Please welcome the delightful, vibrant, and organized, the abundant and charismatic Tracy McCubbin. How you doing, Tracy?
I am amazing. I am so happy to be here. I have been looking forward. I mean, it's hilarious. Like, I am so looking forward to this conversation with you. I'm like tucked in a teeny corner of like a house that's being decluttered because I was like, I got to get there. I got to get there. So I am so excited to talk to you and, meet your listeners. I'm so over the moon.
I appreciate that very much. And I feel exactly, it feels like we've known each other for about 3 years. And if we're being honest, we just connected, but I'm super excited as well. And for our community and audience, my best suggestion would be to do a deep dive on Tracy. Check out all her awesome content, YouTube, her book, Instagram, all that stuff. What I think is most valuable is we just have an unbelievable conversation and get nuts. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
I love it. Go.
Tracy, when you wake up every day, what is one non-negotiable for you?
What is not one non-negotiable that I, even if he's sleeping or whatever time, that I take a minute to say a loving, heartfelt, have a great day to my husband.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's the one. Just a little check-in before the day starts. Get grounded, see each other. Look, I'll peek him out from under the covers because sometimes I get up earlier than he does, and just take a minute. And that's a non-negotiable. The days we don't do it, something doesn't feel right.
That's so good. And I just posted something yesterday actually where I did something similar, but I just started and I'm going to make it more of a routine. And I woke up really early as I always do the other day, and we went in to get a brand new puppy from the crate, and I brought him into bed just to snuggle. And I just held my fiance's hand and I just told her I loved her. And I just went like back to sleep / speak to God a little bit and just rest there for a couple hours. And it was such a priceless, blissful moment. And that's what it's all about. I just felt peace. And I made a promise to myself right then and there that I'm going to start making that part of my routine. And that's awesome that that's the one thing that you kind of just mentioned, which is very similar.
We talked about this, but
Yeah.
I just got married for the first time at 58, 6 weeks ago.
Congrats.
And thank you. We're so excited. And I've been asking a lot of people who've been married for a long time, like, what's your tip, or what can you say? And a lot of people said stuff like choose being nice, which I was like, well, that's great. And yes, we have to remind ourselves to be nice to our partner. Don't forget to laugh. But a dear friend of mine who's been married for about 30 years, she said yesterday, I realized that marriages are a lot like dogs. They can be super, super comforting, but they need a lot of tender walking and feeding and watering. And it's like, right. And so I like to start the day off just connecting with my husband, remembering that we're a partnership, that it's he and I together, and then go out into my day.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And the analogy hits home for me because we have a puppy, so I know about the feeding and the walking and all that stuff. And also, like, I just want to acknowledge you, 58 years young, just getting warmed up. And that's awesome. And one thing that comes to mind that you probably never did is settle.
No, I wrote my own vows, as a lot of people do, and the thing that I said in my vows was, everybody keeps saying to me, like, oh, was he worth the wait? And blah, blah, you waited so long. And I was like, I never waited. I was not waiting. I was building a life, and I was living a life, and I was failing, and I was succeeding. And I didn't start my business till I was 40. And so I was never waiting for him. I was building my life. And then when I met him and my life got better, that's when I knew he was the guy.
Wow. I mean, could we be in any more alignment? Same thing happened to me. I was building my business after reinventing myself, and I wasn't even really looking. And of course, that's when it clicked. And then I realized she took it to a whole nother level for me. So this is just awesome. So
when you realize that was the thing, and it's funny because I had a couple dear young women in my life who I've known their whole lives at the wedding, and I was like, no one's there to complete you or fix you, and they all came up to me and they were like, what you said in your vows, like as a 22-year-old, as a 24-year-old, and I was like, focus. That person will come. They will come, and I feel very lucky that I met him when I did, and we're super excited to grow old as AF together.
100%. And also, like, you were all in on you and your career and all that stuff. And you got to get that sorted, right? That's important. You got to fill your cup. And then you were kind of available. And I wouldn't change a thing. It's beautiful the way it happened for you. So at 40 is when you made that big reinvention?
Yeah, so this is a great thing for people out there who are like, oh, what do I do next? I've done a million jobs, literally. Like I was one of those, I was like, and I feel like, and I always say this to people, I feel like my life was a series of things. I had to try them to figure out I didn't want to do them. Oh, I actually don't want to be an accountant. Oh, I don't want to be a television producer. I don't want to be, but that was never a failure because every job I did gave me another tool in my tool belt for starting this business. So when I finally launched, when I didn't even know I was launching a business and it took off, I was like, oh, right. All those years of working as a secretary in a law office, I learned how to file and deal with paperwork. Oh, all those, it was the series of figuring out what I didn't want to do, but taking those experiences made me who I am and made me so good at this business. So I want people to understand that even if a job or a career choice isn't the right fit, it doesn't mean you failed.
This is dynamite, right? And like, it's never really starting over because you're bringing those experiences with you to a different arena.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even for me, the funny thing is, Craig, even for me, I tried being an actor for a while, and all those acting classes I took taught me how to listen, taught me how to experience people's emotions. And so, if you're looking to change your life, if you're looking to make a transformation, don't discount everything that you bring to the table. When people apply to work for my company, I have 12 employees now. I never look at someone who has organizing experience. I look at people like, do they come out of product? Like, what is their body of work that can translate? So don't be afraid if what you want to do doesn't look like what you did before, because there's going to be something inside of it that you can translate.
100%. Right. And like, what made you successful in different places wasn't the things, it was you. And those characteristics are transferable.
Exactly. And so I think that, I think that when you find your calling, you get lit up inside. It's almost like when I started my business. So I didn't even know I was starting a business. I was working for a television director. And when we had downtime, people would call me and say, oh, my garage needs cleaning out, or you're an assistant. Can you help me with all this paperwork? So I started doing it. I wasn't charging people. Then I was charging a little bit. I was like, oh, and a friend of mine was like, this is a business. And I was like, no, I just enjoy doing it. And he's like, yeah, that's what your business should be, something you enjoy doing. And it was bigger than me. I had no control. It just, like, my little flip phone started blowing up and people started hearing it. And then I built a website, and it was truly a calling. And I say this all the time, like, I had kind of no control. I had to do this.
This is so important because there's a misconception that you can't love what you do and unapologetically make a lot of money doing it. And to be honest with you, like, when people used to tell me a few years back, find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, in my head, I'd be really skeptical because I was miserable. I used to be like, right, it'll always feel like a job. But then when I started putting this together, I realized, like, I've been successful at things that I didn't even really love. I actually love this with all my heart and I'm good at it. Like I can't fail. And even if I get knocked on my butt, I'm determined and resourceful to figure it out. But I wasn't really so worried about monetizing it. I kind of believed it would happen. I just wanted to add value. And it seems like that's similar to you. And don't you believe that if anyone's really passionate about something, you could figure out a way to create monetization as an energetic exchange?
Absolutely. And, I've been having a lot of these conversations about like exchanging content for money and, and sort of feeling like, oh, that sort of makes me feel, the wasp in me is like, I don't want to talk about money, but it's an exchange, right? It's an exchange of energy. And sometimes what people have to give you back is money. Sometimes they have, there's different things. And so I absolutely, absolutely. And pay attention if you're out there and you're thinking of how do you change, pay attention. I always describe it like what lights you up? What lights you up?
Yeah, 100%. You're in alignment, I'm in alignment, and it's like you have that lit soul. It's very obvious, very contagious. And for the audience, like I used to think that once you get the things, then you'd have the lit soul. The irony is activate the lit soul now, and then you end up manifesting the things you thought you needed to activate that lit soul. It's a beautiful irony.
And look, I'm a professional declutter and organizer. I've had a business for 17 years. I have 12 employees. I have done everybody. I do all the movie stars. I've done everybody. If you're not following your passion, the stuff is not going to make you happier. It's not going to make you happier. I don't care. It's just not. And so when you follow your passion, and then the stuff is like the added bonus. It's like an ice cream sundae is delicious. If it's got some whipped cream on top, great. But you can eat a delicious ice cream sundae without it. And I think we need to start looking at our literal stuff
Yeah.
as the whipped cream on the ice cream sundae. It's not the meat of our life. It's not. We've got to stop turning to this stuff to fulfill us.
There's so many cool places we could take this conversation, but as a true entrepreneur, and I want to ask you, like, so you leaned into this, built a website, started getting it going. When did it really start to gain traction? And you were like, wow, I'm really onto something here. This is awesome.
I got a piece of, this is going to be old school for people, but one of the first daily emails, there was this thing called Daily Candy. It was an email that went out. It was started by this woman in New York, and it was like all sort of cool things, and like the cool girls found it, and it was a daily email. And we all waited for it. It was like, what are they wearing? What are they eating? What are they doing? And they launched in LA, and somebody referred me to them, and I got an email that said, we're gonna post you tomorrow. You should get up at 5 a.m. because you'll never see anything like it. And it was free marketing, so which is super important for people to understand that I was up and the emails were flying in. I still have people to this day that say, I saw you on Daily Candy. And, it was, and I want to write a book about this someday or something, but I think that one of the amazing things that happened with the internet and internet marketing is that women typically in the past, it was hard for us to launch businesses because it was hard for us to get capital. Venture capitalists weren't going to us, banks wouldn't loan to us. And then all of a sudden the internet happened and we could do amazing marketing for not very much money, even free. Building an email list, it's your time, but it's there. And that, it just like all of a sudden that happened. I was like, oh, this is it. This is it.
Yeah, this is great stuff. Straight up. I love all this. The couple nuggets that I want to hit you. It's going to be so fun for the audience. I was checking out your content, which I suggest everybody do immediately in this conversation. And one thing you were talking about, and to be honest with you, I don't really know the answer, and I'm curious, is the difference between decluttering and organizing and cleaning.
Yeah, this is such a great one. And this is where people really get wrapped around the axles, right? Because they try and do it all at once and they get stymied. And, cleaning is cleaning. Cleaning is getting all purpose cleaner and scrubbing it down, vacuuming. That is cleaning. Decluttering is getting rid of the stuff that you don't want, need, or use anymore. And that is the first step because the less stuff you have, the easier it is to clean, right? You don't have to move as much stuff. So you want to declutter first. Then organizing is taking what you have and putting in systems that work. So for example, and he knows I will say this, I love my husband. I'm so happy I met him. He's so messy. The universe laughed when they handed him to me. They were like, here you
Go
go.
with
Here's
my
your biggest,
fiance.
here's your biggest project. Go. And one of the first things when we moved in together, for him, it was losing his keys all the time. And I was like, here, let's put a bowl by the front door. And when you come in the door, you put your keys in your bowl. And after like 3 days, he was like, it just stopped. He was like, oh, I know where my keys are. That's organizing, right? That's where creating a system so that you can succeed. And I believe I will just, this is, and no one else is talking about this. I believe that our home, Craig, is a tool. It's a tool to support us. It's a tool to rest in, to replenish, to refill, to connect with others. That's the goal of the home. It's not to be perfect. Look, if you want a perfect home, knock your socks off. But it's a tool. So getting systems in place that makes your home work better for you means that you can have a better day out in the world.
That's it. I love, like, I'm big on spirituality, but I also have to sprinkle in the being practical. It's got to be like a combination. What you do, which I think is so clever and so interesting, and I've never seen it before, is like you're all about like decluttering and creating space and getting rid of stuff that doesn't belong, but also the mindset behind it. Like, why was that stuff even there in the first place? Like, there's a psychology behind this stuff. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so when I wrote my first book, I came up with this. I had been doing this for about 10 years, and I had seen that we humans, everybody, we make up, as you know, humans were meaning making machines. We just make up meaning about everything. A bird poops on you, it's good luck. It rains on your wedding day, you're going to get pregnant. Like, we just make stuff up. So we made up all these stories about why we can't let go of our clutter. There's 7 of them. And I realized they are universal, and I call them clutter blocks. They are these blocks that we have to let it go. And they are everything from, I paid really good money for it, so I can't let it go. I might need it someday. My grandma gave it to me. They're all sort of rooted in these emotional mishigas. And when I was able to identify them and say them to people, they were like, oh, that's exactly right. So a big one is clutter block number 1. My stuff keeps me stuck in the past, right? This is your trappings of your before life, or this is clothes that you don't fit into anymore and you may never fit into again. And the thing I found with that kind of stuff is that it keeps telling you that your best days were behind you. I had this woman, right? That it's
Yeah.
like, I had this woman DM me. She's 65. She was lovely. She was like, I cleaned out my closet. She's like, all I'm doing is beating myself up that 20 pounds heavier and I can't wear my old clothes. And I was like, okay, let's go backwards. Okay, so what? Who cares? And are you healthy? She got married at 55. She's, doing, and I was like, why are you, that's you. Like, first of all, gravity happens, life changes. Like, concentrating on the clothes that you can't fit into anymore means you're not looking forward to what you can bring into the world today. It's just clothes. Like, and she was like, oh, I was like, I give you permission to stop beating yourself up about what you can't fit into. And I think that we, in our homes, we want to have memories and we want to have soul connections, but we also want it to support us in what we're doing. And that's looking forward. Where are we going? How are you being your best self? How are you showing up for the world? How are you showing up for your family? And I'm telling you, because I've done this for 17 years, if your house is cluttered, Craig, you're not showing up for yourself. You're not showing up for your family. You're not showing up for your community. You are dealing with your clutter.
This is deep. And this is awesome. And I imagine some of the audience didn't expect this conversation to get this deep. but this is so cool. Mindset is everything, right? And the way you're so right, how everyone attaches meanings to different things. And they start investing in that story.
They invest in that story. And people are like, you're going to tell me to throw away everything. And you just, and I'm like, no. I say this all the time. This is especially like when people keep so much sentimental stuff. I'm like, if everything is special, nothing is special. right? If you keep every trophy you ever won and every t-shirt from every sports team, and if every, all of a sudden it's just a jumble and none of it has any meaning. So curate it, go through it. Does this mean something to you truly? When you're old and sitting on the rocking chair, are you going to read this letter and is it going to delight you? Or are you not even going to remember who the person is?
Right. To be honest with you, I'm sure there's multiple things in my New York City apartment that are here for no real good reason other than they were sentimental like 7 years ago. And I don't need them anymore. And I'm going to commit right here and right now to putting together a strategy to start eliminating and getting rid of a lot of the stuff.
It holds you back. It takes energy. We become the stewards of our stuff. And if you're this is a great thing for people to right now. They're like, if they're sort of out there listening, going like, how do I know if I'm cluttered? Like, how do I know? The first thing I say, do you feel like you own your stuff or does your stuff own you?
Ooh.
I knew you'd like that.
Yeah.
Right? If you feel like if you're paying for storage units, if you've got, Manhattan mini storages that are costing you $400 a month and stuff you never go see, and you're constantly moving stuff to use your home, your stuff is starting to own you. And that's when you have too much stuff. That's the litmus test. It's not a number. It's the feeling of it, the grip it has on you.
This is really interesting. I have a question. So we're talking about like physical clutter and stuff like that, but what about digital? What about like photos on my phone, like thousands of photos that I definitely need, as I know you like to talk about, email overload inbox.
So January 1st, I nuke my inbox.
Nuke?
I delete it. I delete everything. I just nuke it. Go to zero, ground zero. I just delete everything because it's ridiculous. It's 50,000, and the thing is, it's all there because if I need to find anything, I just search the sent emails. It's all there. Digital. This is a great tip. Of course, the young gals who worked for me turned me on to this one. Set a timer on your phone for say 8:00 at night when you're, winding down from the day. And what you do is you set an alarm and then you go back to this day on your phone. You can search in your iPhoto this day 5 years ago, and then just spend 5 minutes deleting old photos. Because it's great. You're carrying it around. And even though you're like, I don't notice it, you notice it. Like I always have to take a picture of where I park my car because I never remember. I must have thousands of them. Like, why am I dragging this around?
That's so funny. This is so good. To be honest with you, I remember a couple of years back, I had a plan. Every day I'd wake up, I'd throw out a couple things from my place, and I'd also delete like 10 photos. And it worked. I did it for like maybe 6 to 9 months. And I got rid of a lot of stuff. And then life kind of happened. And, I got busy and stuff like that. But I was doing that. And I remember it was like liberating. It was great. Got to get back to that.
Yeah. And, I always tell people like, get a regular decluttering practice, like just, once a month or once a week or, just spend a little time. Like our space is so important to us, and here's the thing. We have such little control of how much stuff people give us gifts, and you get freebies and the mail comes up, like stuff comes in. So just take a minute, take 5 minutes, take a half an hour once a week and be like, let me just scan through this room. Oh, I don't need this. This can go in the recycle bin, and stay on top of it, because it really sends a message to you to appreciate what you use and what really is important.
I agree with you. It's very interesting because like I think that, I know this might trigger and offend some people, but like if you don't keep your vessel, like your physical body, in somewhat decent shape, it says a little bit about how you respect yourself. And I think also like how much stuff do you keep around that you don't need, right? Like that, like you should have a clean workspace or a clean environment, or at least organized.
I say it all the time. I can tell you what's going on in someone's internal life by the state of their house. Every time I can I'm like, oh, they want to get divorced. Oh, they hate their job. I can see it. It's just, and again, people need to hear this. There's not some level of perfection. It's not like, 0.10 body fat or whatever, there's no what works for you is different than what works for me, but being aware and creating a home that supports you. I get called in a lot to help people organize their kitchens. It's one of the things I'm really good at. And it always starts with, I want to eat healthy. I want to eat healthy. And the first thing I'll see when I see a cluttered kitchen and countertops, I'm like, well, you can't cook. Like, this isn't set up as a workspace. No wonder you're ordering in all the time, because you come in here and you have 3 coffee makers and an Instapot. Like, let's get rid of all the clutter. Let's get you a good set of knives. Let's get you a couple good pots and pans, a good cutting board, and you're going to be able to cook. And so think about these things. Kitchen's cluttered, you're not going to cook healthy. Your closet's so cluttered that you don't put your clothes away, so you're getting dressed out of your laundry basket. How's that for a start to your day? You know, right? Like, our clothes are our uniform, they're our armor. And if you're digging out of a laundry basket to get dressed, you're already putting yourself on the wrong foot. But if you open a closet and it's organized and you see what you have and you put on your armor and you feel great, you're going to go out the door that way. Like, if your bed is so stacked with clothes that you have to clear it off before you go to sleep at night, that's not going to rest you. If you have, I mean, I say this all the time, if you have stacks of paperwork in your bedroom, old taxes, like, how are you sleeping at night with like your taxes? You know, so it's all intertwined. Your home is there to support you. And so this isn't about it being rainbow colored and perfect. It's about creating a space that helps you succeed.
That's it. I feel like one of the things that you bring to the table is accountability, because, you know, like, so if someone really took some time to think, like, they can get themselves organized, they know what they don't need, but then you come in there and you kind of give them a fresh perspective and like, oh yeah.
I think the other thing too, Craig, is in a way, I give people permission. Like, it's
Ooh,
okay. It's okay. And so many people have so much shame around clutter and, I'm lazy, I'm a bad housekeeper. I'm like, you're a human. You did a thing. Your house got to a state. Like, it doesn't matter what it was. It matters what you want it to be and how do we get you there. It's just behavioral changes. It's just doing things differently. It's just mindset. Just mindset.
That's it. I love all this. Your book, Make Space for Happiness. I feel
Mm.
there's like a dual meaning with that title. Tell us more.
You know, it was so the tagline for my business is make space for what matters, because in homes, it's like, if you live in a cluttered home, the simplest way to say it is, if you live in a cluttered home, you're not going to invite people over. So you're not going to share your space, and you're taking away your connection, right? You're taking away your community. So when I started decluttering, I was like, great, we're going to make space for what matters: your family coming to visit, hosting a dinner party, getting good sleep at night. And then when I just started to see people do this, and I just started to see the joy come in and the peace. And that's what led me to the title for this next book. Like, we want to make space, but what are we making space for? Happiness. We all want to be happier. So this book is about, this was my pandemic baby. This book is really about why we shop, and what we think we're fixing with the shopping, and that it doesn't work. The
Interesting.
stuff. Yeah, look, shopping is a dopamine hit. It's simple as that. You get a
True.
dopamine hit. You go on Amazon, bing, a package shows up, bing, you find something on sale. It's a dopamine hit. I mean, we all know dopamine lasts for what, 17, 20 seconds? Like,
Temporary. Yeah.
yeah, it's temporary. So if you are feeling, if you're shopping when you're lonely, if you're shopping when you don't feel good about yourself, when when you're trying to find your real purpose, you think that the stuff that you're buying is going to fix you, but it's not. So what this book is, as I identify, I call them your clutter magnets, right? What you're magnetizing to try and fix yourself. And instead, how do we get those? How do we get true connection? How do we find strong self-confidence? How do we find it in other ways? And then again, we go back to the shopping as the icing on the cake, that you're not buying the things to fix you.
You're such a beautiful soul. And I'm just curious,
You're so sweet. Thank you.
with your branding, right? Because I didn't realize to the extent how deep you were. I had a feeling, that's why we connected and gravitated towards you. But like, when people think, I imagine if they want to hire you or reach out to you, they think that they need to declutter. But does everyone know how deep you are and like mindset oriented, and how you also focus on why it's there and all that stuff? Did people realize that?
Sometimes people know, and other times, what do they say when the student is ready, the teacher shows up?
Yes.
So I just keep myself super open. I feel that this is my calling. I grew up, I have a parent who hoards. He still hoards. It's been a lifelong battle for all of us. And, I want to say to people out there, because this often comes up, is if you're worried you have hoarding disorder or someone that you love, there is help out there, and it is something to be taken seriously. I believe people are going to come at me a little bit when I say this, but I believe that hoarding is actually an addiction. I think that people are addicted to it. And so
Definitely. Social media could be
definitely,
an addiction for people. Why can't hoarding be?
totally, exactly. So, I just watched someone I loved spend their whole life wrestling with their relationship with stuff. And it just gave me such empathy. It just gave me such empathy for my clients and my followers. And it, this human experience, it's not easy. It's
Oh,
not easy.
no one said it
So
would be.
what, nope, but what can we do to make it a little bit better? What can we do? I got the sweetest DM the other day from this young woman in Canada whose dad called her up and admitted that he was about to get evicted from his apartment because he had been hoarding, and the landlord. And so I just gave her some sort of advice, and she went up there and she just sent me pictures. She helped him clean out his apartment, and the two of them like standing in the sunny little courtyard smiling. And I was like, this is why I do this. This is why I do this, because he was ashamed, and he gave you, in telling you his truth, he gave you an opportunity to show up for him. And now you two are even more connected.
Isn't that what it's all about? That's the real ROI
Yep.
when something
It's
like
the
that happens.
Yep, it's about the connection. And I will say, because you did just get engaged, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So I told you I just got married 6 weeks ago. When you start planning your wedding, be very focused. Not who cares what color the napkins are. Who cares? Like, focus on the connection. Focus on the people you're bringing together. The stuff at your wedding will be beautiful. It'll be beautiful. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you have my
Doesn't
word.
matter.
And good. My fiance is not super high maintenance. That's one of the reasons why I fell in love with her. So that's great. But I definitely will note that. Do you want to hear something that might make you cringe? I never said
Yeah.
it, and I hope my mom or dad don't listen to this episode. But in my house growing up, they had a room that they called the junk room. And if you went in there, it was literally junk and stuff that's been hoarded for years. You couldn't find anything, but that's what it was called. It was a junk room. And I kind
Yeah.
of grew up thinking that that was normal, that everyone had a junk room, but it's not. It's not normal.
Yeah. It's not. And when there's a room in your house that you can't use,
That
the
was
stuff has
liberating to
become,
actually say to
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. And like, you just, all of a sudden you're like, oh, this isn't normal. But also if and it's even deeper than not normal. It's this idea that if there's a whole room in your house that your parents were paying for, they paid for that house, that is only used to store garbage. I'm sorry, garbage. If you're calling it junk, it's garbage. They're not using their house to the fullest.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. Wait, did you grow up? Let me ask this. I'm super curious about this. Did you grow up in the city,
No, in Long Island.
in Long Island? Are your parents children of immigrants,
Um,
or a couple generations back?
couple generations back.
Yeah. New York is interesting. New Yorkers hold on to different, there's a whole different, I think, for a lot of reasons. I think space is hard, not out on Long Island so much, but if your parents grew up in the city or your grandparents grew up in the city, there's just a different relationship to stuff.
Understand. There's a concept called over organizing.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Tell me
Yep.
more. Tell me more.
That it. I always tell people this idea of like done is better than perfect, right? So the other day I took a walk and I my clothes, my own clothes to put away after doing laundry, and my closet had gotten out of control because we had a leak, and and I was like, well, I don't want to put my clothes away until my closet's perfect because it's just not perfect right now, and I didn't have the time to do it, so my clothes stayed in the laundry basket for a week, and the other members of my house were like, we need to use the laundry basket. And I was like, you know what? I just need to put my clothes away. Like, I need to get them out. And what I found is that I was getting stuck in that it needs to be perfect and it needs to be color coded. It needs to be over organized. And it was stopping me from doing the simple things. And I was like, just put your clothes away. You could take a half an hour some day over the weekend and color coordinate and you'll be fine. So, if you are over organized, you're painting yourself into a corner. Like, you're like, I can't do it. It's like they're A-type and it has to be that way. It's like, sometimes done is better than perfect.
I would say all the time. If you wait for the perfect moment, it'll never happen.
And also, what's perfect, Craig?
Right.
What's perfect? When's the perfect time to launch a business? When's the perfect time to have a baby? There's no perfect. There's the moment you choose. There's the moment you choose.
You nailed it. And I like to say reinvention is not a feeling, it's a decision, right? Or ready. Being ready is not a feeling, it's a decision. You decide, this is what I'm going to do.
Yep.
This is what I'm going to try. And
that's what I tell people all the time when they call me to work with me in person. I'm like, this is the biggest step. This is not the work we're going to do down the road. Today, picking up this phone and calling me was because today's the day you decided to make a change. And I'm here to facilitate that change. And you need to pat yourself on the back and you need to be proud of yourself because this is the hardest step.
I'm so fascinated by your work and you, the human, and I'm so excited to build a friendship. And I'm just curious, do you only work with people in LA?
Nope. I go all over the country. I get flown everywhere. Yep.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's great.
So I'm just curious, and maybe you can elaborate, maybe you can't. But like, if someone hires you or someone calls you and they're interested, how does it work? Like what happens next? Like, what's the process? I imagine there's a lot of people listening to this that are going to want to work with you.
Yeah, that's great. So the first step is a free consultation. I've always done a free consultation. There are a lot of organizers that you have to pay like $500 for them to even come and walk through your house. I want to make sure that we're a good match. I'm a good match for you. You're a good match for me. If somebody's out of state or I'm not, I work a lot in New York. If I'm not there, we can do it virtually. So we walk through, we talk about where your sticking points are, where your trouble zones, what your goals. That's a big one for me. Why are you doing this? That's a big one for me. Why do you want to get organized? Why? And it can be simple. Like, I'm just tired of all this crap, or I'm throwing my daughter's wedding and I want to get my house back, or, anything. The why is so important. And then from there, we figure out what's best. So I'm here. I'm approachable. I've got my amazing Sam, my assistant, and we see every email that comes in and every DM and every phone call. And I have 12 organizers who work for me now, but everything's still filtered through me.
Yeah, love it. And that's why the brand is so successful, because it has your DNA on it. What lights you up most? Like, what are you most excited about right now with the business and so forth?
Growth, making it accessible. Couple things, getting a team of organizers that are at a price point where more people can afford. Full disclosure, I'm expensive. I've been doing this for 16 years. Yeah. And, somebody said to me early on, and this is great, and I'm sure you've talked about this here, I'm not being paid for my time. I'm being paid for my expertise. Once I owned that, everything changed. But what lights me up is growing this business so that there are people everywhere that do it, and that at a price point that's accessible to everybody. Price point that my people who work for me still make money, but it also is an accessible service. Yeah. That's what's exciting me.
I have a question for you that's very relevant, straight off the cuff. We're growing and scaling rapidly right now, which is really exciting, and we're hiring as well. And something that I've noticed is that really good talent, really good people, it's a little challenging to find. You're obviously growing and doing your thing. What's your secret?
Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's I gotta say, and I'm not paid by them at all, but I've actually had really good luck on Indeed. I've had really good luck finding people on Indeed. It's been a great
same so far, actually.
Yeah.
I can hear you say that.
Yeah. And I think, for me, it's also looking at somebody's experience. I think people are like, oh, they apply for a job and it's like, oh, they have to have this through line. I was an intern here and then I worked here and then my husband also helps with this because he has an unbelievable knack for headhunting and hiring. It's great. We went to this party, an NFL party, and like 20 of the people there, he had given them their first job, and now he's got a knack for it. But just like, it doesn't matter if someone hasn't done exactly what the job that you're hiring for. He always says you're hiring the person, not for the job. So we look, what experience do they come? What do they have? You know, for me, it's like even things like Craig, if somebody was a caretaker for a family member who was ill, makes them a great organizer, gives
Wow.
them compassion. You know, they've dealt with like they're just things that I look, yeah.
Grace, I have to interrupt for one second. I have to run that back because that was so good. Hire them not for the job, but for the person they are.
Yep. Hire them not for the job, for the person. Because if it's someone great, you'll be able to fit the job to them.
You'll mold them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. And really playing on people's strengths. Like not, you know, I'm good at a lot of stuff. There's some stuff I'm not good at. Not everybody's good at everything. And I think sometimes as an entrepreneur, we get locked into, you know, everybody has to be able to do everything. And when you're scaling, you've got to break it up and you've got to find out. So I'm always focused on, you know, scheduling people with clients. They're a good match, that's their strong suit. What does the client need? Who's the organizer I have that's perfect for that? And so, you know, I hire people that are good people, and then we fit the job around them.
This is so juicy because I used to have this scarcity mindset that like, who's gonna wake up as excited about CLS as me? But what got us here is not what's gonna get us there. So you
Right.
have to be able to delegate and trust and build.
Boy,
Yeah.
that's the hard one. For me, you know, and for me, it's like I started this business with a flip phone and a station wagon. I have a warehouse now and trucks, and you know, it's hard, and that scaling is hard because this is my life, this is my baby, but I can't grow it if I don't let go. And I want to grow it because I want everyone to have access to this service because we all need it.
Does the business run without you?
We're getting there. We're trying. Next week's going to be the first. I'm going to Kenya for 2 weeks and I'm going to be offline. So my team is ready to rock and roll.
Wow.
I believe in them. I totally believe in them. Terrified. You know, I have to say though, I have like just my team right now is fantastic. They're just fantastic. And I think, and I do know what you mean about the scarcity in hiring. I'm never going to be able to find somebody. Nobody gets it. And it's like, no, there are people out there. There are people out there that are excited, and there are people out there, and just believe and you will find them.
I heard something awesome recently, and I can't take credit for it because it wasn't me, but someone said something along the lines of this: hiring people that don't have to necessarily buy so much into the vision. They just have to buy into that you buy into the vision.
Yep.
But that was really cool, really clever.
Yep. Yep. That, you know, you don't. And it's funny, I've actually changed this languaging and I've noticed I'm really, you know, I always approach this business and like, we're a family. And, you know, and lately I've done a lot of reading around it. And lately I'm like, we're not a family. I'm not your family. You have a family. This is a job. I want you to be passionate about it, but you don't have to be more passionate than I do. I'm the most passionate about it. If you're 50% passionate, 60, but this isn't your family. This is your job. And that is a real expectation. And I want you to go home to your partner, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, your parents, whatever your family is, that's your family. And when I made this switch, I noticed my employees got a lot more agency. They got a lot more ability to really own it. Because I think that the guilt that comes with thinking you're a family or I don't know, it's been a really powerful mindset change in our business.
You said two things in this conversation that really stood out as quantum shifts for you, and I want to acknowledge you. That one, and then also earlier you said that you had this realization that you don't get paid for your time, you get paid for your expertise. And it seems like those two shifts really helped out.
They were huge. They were huge. And I think that's if someone out there is looking to transform, and maybe that means a career change or, you know, something that, remember, you have an expertise, even if you've never been paid for it, right? You have an expertise. A lot of times I go in and help women who get their houses organized, to raise their families, you know, didn't work outside the home, and, you know, are looking to re-enter the job force. And they're like, I don't know, I just been a stay-at-home mom. And I'm like, okay, if you're a stay-at-home mom, you are literally a freaking CEO. Like, you paid all the bills, you manage the house, like, you have so much skill. And so I think it's important when we're looking to transform is to like do an inventory of your skills. Do an inventory.
I think this is awesome. It's so special what you've built and created. And also, like, it's very obvious that you're into the personal development stuff and you like use that in the DNA of your very niche brand and offering. I just think it's so cool.
You know, I like I give her credit. I heard Gwyneth, you know, Paltrow say this. She's like, as far as we know, we've got one life. Let's milk it for all it's worth.
That's it. Yeah. I know there's many people listening right now because I talk about reinvention a lot because it's part of our brand and so forth. And the book's called The Reinvention Formula. People are probably wondering, weren't you scared to pivot at 40 years young when you had a stable job and start something totally different? And what would you say to that?
I it was such a good fit. It was such a good fit that it just came to me like the business just took off on its own. I got scared a couple years in. I
Couple,
didn't get scared in the beginning. A couple years when it started to really take off, and when I realized, oh, I got to learn how to be a boss and learn how to be an entrepreneur. That's when I got a little terrified. At first, it was just dumb luck. I was like, okay, I don't know. Sure, I'm good at this, you know, which, by the way, will get you very far. Dumb luck will get you very far.
so is that like ignorance is bliss?
I just didn't even, I always say I was an accidental entrepreneur. I never set out to start a business, a company on this scale. And then it was like, I have to do this. This is my calling. And people need this service. So how do I grow it so more people can have it? I had no choice, Craig. I had no choice.
There's something really to that. And we got to bring you back for sequel because that could be a whole conversation in itself. Just the fact that so many or budding entrepreneurs overthink everything to the point that they talk themselves out of it. If I were to do that, like I would have been like, well, you have no online presence, you're an introvert, you have no connections, you have no social media going on. And then I probably would have succumbed. But I wasn't really available for that. I just was excited and I kind of led with my enthusiasm.
When I took my first book proposal out to auction with my agent, I met with everybody and the big, and that was the thing they all said. They were like, nah, you know, you just don't really have a social media presence. Like, and I was like, well, that's it. Okay, I can get one of those. That's like ridiculous. I was like, this book needs to be out in the world. People need to have, and I just so believed it. And I was like, if that's the thing that you're telling me is a problem, then I'll just get that. Like, okay. And so I think that, yeah, I think you just, if it's your calling, you got to do it. And you'll know. And let's just say it here. And I know you've said it and you talk about this. The money's not the calling. The money's nice, but the money's not the calling.
No, it's not.
If the money was the calling, I would have become, you know, a TV producer because I was lined up to do that and I would have made a shit ton more money and I would have been miserable.
But also to add on that, I believe that when you really lean into your calling, you will monetize it and do very well.
Of course, of course, of course. I mean, I tell this story a lot. When I first started my business and when I was this accidental entrepreneur and I started to do the time expertise, like what do I charge? And I started tracking my hours and I was like, I'm getting paid less than minimum wage. Okay, let's, you know, and I still to this day, I track my hours every day. What's billable to a client? What did I spend on HR? What did I spend on biz development? What did I spend on marketing? I'm looking at where I'm spending all my time. What's the ROI on this? Is this biz development actually coming back into clients? Like I look at that all the time. That's one of my biggest KPIs.
Look at you with all the terminology and all the things. Well, you could learn it all.
It's easy. I mean, look, it's easy. It's that stuff is the easy. It's finding the passion, right? It's finding the passion.
You're right. Clarity. And for the audience listening, I think we should land the plane with you. When it's your calling, you said you'll know, it'll keep calling you. It might not be a shout, maybe be a little whisper or a tug, but you got to explore that and right and just be available and open to it and see where it leads. And even if it's not the thing, it's most likely going to be the thing that leads to the thing.
Yep. That's so important. That I'm going to land the plane with that. Like it's never a straight line. Life is a cha-cha. And every experience you have, every job, every time you got fired, every time you got laid off, all of those experiences add up. I think it's just as much the failures, however you want to call those, as the successes. And you're like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. I mean, I've learned my biggest lessons from my worst, most difficult clients, like the ones that just put me, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I know now if I go into a house and they start saying things like, oh yeah, the AC is broken, I'm in a lawsuit with the HVAC guy. Oh, the plumber, yeah, he's like, all of a sudden when I notice like 3 or 4, I'm like, oh yeah, people don't like working with you and you don't pay. Not my client.
100%. Yeah. This is so good. I'm so
This
excited.
is so good. I'm going to be in New York soon, so let's meet up for a coffee. I'd love it.
Yeah, after we wrap up, we'll exchange numbers and so forth. The audience is so loyal and engaging. What's the best way for them to support you?
Great. So Instagram is my biggest platform. We have so much fun over there. I do 3 to 4 5-minute decluttering challenges a week. I do a deep dive into the emotional stuff. That's the biggest platform. And then the books, everywhere you buy books, Make Space for Happiness is the second book about shopping. And the first one is Making Space Clutter-Free. And also my website, tracymccubbin.com. I've got a great email. You can take a quiz to find out what your clutter block is.
Ooh,
So, yep.
that's
It's a
great.
good one. It's a great one.
Tracy, you don't have like a show, like a podcast or anything?
It's coming. It's coming.
I mean,
It's coming. I'm looking for a production company.
you
So
would absolutely thrive in that arena.
yep. Yep. It's the next step. This is the perfect example. My gals, the young women who work for me, scheduled a meeting with me and came with a deck, and they were like, this is what we think you should do. And I was like, rock on, sisters. Great.
That's all a fresh perspective at the table. I love that.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's the next one. We're figuring out what's the best platform, but that's the next.
I love it. And I'll support any way I can. Trace, hang up for 1 sec. I want to connect with you after. I want you to know you're the definition of being in alignment, reinvention, and unbelievable energy. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Thank you for having me. And this connection it's on fire. I can feel it.
That was awesome. I could talk to you all day.
That was great. I told you I've been looking forward to this. I was like, oh, he and I are gonna fly. It's great.
Let's do so much more together.
Great. I'd love it. I'd love it. I'd love it. This transformation space it's such a component of it. And I think that when people are talking about transformation, they've got to include everybody's physical environments. You just have to.
I'm blown away by your frequency, if you will. Like, it's just awesome. And I love how you tie into the personal development, to the stuff that you have going on. It's so much fun. And I know a podcast or a show, whatever you decide to do, and if I could support anyway, let me know. You will crush it in that arena. And your whole audience will have another way to like stay in the loop. And it'll just be great for you.
I may schedule a call with you to pick your brain sort of about I've been kind of talking to people about different platforms and their experiences and just doing a little research. So I may take you up on that and pick your brain.
Yeah,
that's great.
Let's exchange numbers. I'll give you mine. Do you have your phone on you?
I can write it right here. Hang on. My phone's downstairs. All right, Craig. Okay. What's your phone number?